You are about to learn how you can grow your podcast audience totally for free on social media by only spending 15 to 30 minutes a day. I promise you, it's not too good to be true. Let's dive in. My name is Kevin Schmidlin. I am a podcaster and podcast coach. I have 2 shows. Both of them have surpassed 100,000 downloads and $100,000 monetized. And the most recent one, Grow the Show, made $500,000 in 2021 alone in its first year. I'm also a podcast coach, and I specialize in helping online creators and entrepreneurs to build audiences from scratch. And after 3 years of doing this, what I've learned is that it's pretty easy to launch a podcast, but everyone is having a really hard time growing their podcast. And there's a good chance that you are too. And that's because podcasters all bank their whole strategy of growth on hoping that your audience spreads the word for you via word of mouth. Please tell a friend, rate and review. Hoping that your guests spread the word on their social media channels. Guess what? They don't. And hoping that if you just land that one dream guest, or if you just put out an episode every single week, at some point the show will blow up and you will have made it. That's not how it works. If that's your strategy, hoping, it's really hard, nay, impossible to grow a podcast. And if your podcast isn't growing, it's probably because you're using one of those strategies, right? Well, as it turns out, it's much easier and much more efficient and much more fun to grow a podcast audience if you switch from the hoping strategies to owning. The framework I'm about to share with you is designed to help you take ownership of audience growth. And whether you haven't launched yet, you just launched within the past 6 months and you're not seeing the growth that you want, or even if you've been at this for a few years and you want a leg up, I'm telling you, this strategy is going to help. I have firsthand seen hundreds of podcasters implement this framework and immediately start to see 25%, 50%, sometimes 100% audience growth in 1 month. And by the way, that's not just my clients. That's also just people who listen to the Grow the Show podcast for free. And that's soon going to be you. So let's talk about how you can grow your podcast audience up to 100% or more per month by spending 15 to 30 minutes a day on social media, which, by the way, you already do. You're just doing it the wrong way. You see, in order for this to work, we have to start making social media work for us. There are 3 things that you can do on social media. Today, you're mostly doing one of them. We are about to switch to do the third one. The first one is consume. Scroll. Consuming on social media does nothing for you except to give you a little dopamine hit. Every single time you see a piece of content that hits that dopamine part of your brain where you're like, ooh, I liked this. It was funny, or it was controversial, or whatever it is, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine and you scroll on to the next thing. Never mind the fact that this is literally destroying all of our brains and society. That is not the scope of this video, but it's not helping you either. So the first thing you can do on social media is consume. Scroll. The second thing that you can do on social media, which is what most podcasters and business owners do to grow their audience, and it doesn't work, is publish. So number 1 is consume. Number 2 is publish. Post, right? Consume is scroll. Publish is post. Publishing on social media is, of course, important. However, it takes tons of time to create all of that content. And publishing alone does nothing to grow your audience, let alone to grow your account on that social media. Now, yes, there are a couple social media platforms today that are rewarding publishers with organic growth, such as TikTok, LinkedIn, and Reels within Instagram. But guess what? All of those creators who are blowing up their audiences right now aren't just doing number 2, publishing. They're also doing number 3. And what you're about to learn, which is number 3, if you do only number 3, if you don't consume and you don't even publish, your audience is still going to grow, although you still need to publish. Okay, so the 3 things that we do on social media. Consume, scroll. 95% of humanity does that all day, every day, 4 to 6 hours a day. Number 2, post. This is what all us podcasters are doing. Check out my new episode. Here's a headshot of my guest. Here's an audiogram. Post. Post in Facebook groups. Post on my Instagram feed. How's that working for you? The third one, the thing that actually works. If you took all of the time that you currently spend posting, and scrolling, and you took a fraction of that, and you did the third thing, which is to engage, you will finally start to see the audience growth that you are craving. Engagement is when you are actually being social on social media. It is literally what the social media platforms want you to do with each other, is engage. They don't want a bunch of people just post, scroll. That's why posts that get lots of engagement, like likes and comments, are the ones that get shown and are the ones that make creators grow. So this is what we are going to talk about today, how you can take 15 to 30 minutes a day, engage with your target audience, engage with your dream guests and dream collaborators, and engage with other podcasters in your niche. Those three things, just 15 to 30 minutes a day, are going to get you tons and tons and tons of growth. I promise you. Okay, so there's one more thing that we have to talk about before we get into the framework, and it is a couple of prerequisites. So number one, this framework is not going to work if you have a vague definition of your audience. The last video in this series talks about how you can define your audience as blanks who blank and blank. If you don't do that, if you resist what I taught you in that last video, and you instead skip to TDE, it's not going to work. You're going to think that I'm a schmuck, and you're going to be like, that didn't work for me. I'm telling you, these watering holes aren't working. I'm not getting any engagement. That's what's going to happen to you if you skip step 2, which is define your audience as blanks who blank and blank. It's uncomfortable. If you skip it, every single thing that you do for the rest of your time as a podcaster will be a waste. The second prerequisite, social media. These apps are designed by people with multiple PhDs who spend their whole day designing these apps and making them flashy so that you get sucked in and you spend as much of your day as possible scrolling. So we need to avoid this. We need to make it so that the time that we spend on social media is only engaging with people who are our future listeners, current listeners, future collaborators, past collaborators, and the people who are really, really, really close to us in life. So before you start doing TDE, what you need to do is go on your social media profiles and mute or unfollow every single person in your feed that doesn't give you massive, massive value when you see their posts. All the coffee shops that you visited 4 years ago in a city that you never returned to. All the friends in high school who you didn't even talk to in high school, yet you see pictures of their kids every day. And really, my rule of thumb for this is anybody that you did not contact during quarantine gets cut. If you were not in contact with them in the early days of quarantine, then you're not close enough to be seeing them at breweries every Saturday. It's a waste of your time. Get it off your plate. And by the way, apps have limitations on how many people you can unfollow at a certain time, so you may have to pace this out over a week. It took me 2 weeks to do this. Also, if you're really afraid of people being offended when you unfollow them, you can mute them. So they won't know that you don't see their posts anymore, and it'll still say that you follow them, but you won't see their crap, their stories, their stuff in your feed anymore, because you don't need to. It's just distracting. It gives you nothing. All right, the last thing we have to do is set up all of our social media profiles that we're going to be doing this engagement on so that they drive people to your podcast. Cover photos, your links, your link in bio has to be super clear. Don't give a link in bio that has 4 million options. The more options somebody has, the more likely they will choose none of them. Have it be maybe 4, maximum 5 links in your link in bio, and make sure that the link to your podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are super, super clear and easy to find. Okay, so you've cleaned up your social media feed, right? You've stopped scrolling. You've stopped posting without any return. You have room to engage, and you have set up your social media profile to drive people to your podcast. What do we do next? How do we do targeted daily engagement? So this is it, folks. TDE, targeted daily engagement. This is our framework here at Grow the Show for how to grow and monetize your podcast in 15 to 30 minutes every single day. On average, my clients and audience members see 60 to 100% growth in their first month alone, staying consistent with TDE. Here's how it works. You schedule on your calendar 15 to 30 minutes every single day, 6 days a week. You can take Sundays off or any other day. You treat that appointment in your calendar like a meeting that you have with somebody else. If somebody asks you if you're available at that time, you say, no, I have an appointment. During that time, because your social media is cleared out and you're not going to be distracted, you sit there and you engage with your current listeners, your future listeners, your dream guests, your dream collaborators, your dream sponsors, and other podcasters in your niche. And when I say engage, what that basically means is just leave thoughtful comments. Participate in the discussion. So when you do this, be fully present, engage thoughtfully, and leave your 2 cents everywhere you go. Commenting 100 emojis or LOL emojis or things like needed this today or you go girl or stuff like that that's not thoughtful. That's not engagement. That's just throwaway stuff. You want to actually add your 2 cents. If you can't think of anything, skip to the next comment. But where do you go to do this engagement? A few places. The first place is what we at Grow the Show call watering holes. Big shout out to Amy Hoy and Alex Hillman of Stacking the Bricks, who coined this term in a sales perspective. For our purposes, we consider the watering holes the places online where your future listeners are going to interact with each other right now. In many cases, that's Facebook groups and subreddits, also Discord channels. But the idea is your audience, your blanks, who blank, and blank, are already going online to interact with other blanks, who blank, and blank. They're in those Facebook groups, those Discord channels, those subreddits, and any other forum on the internet. But I can hear you saying, I've tried that before. I've tried promoting in Facebook groups. Everybody hates me and I got kicked out. Yes, that's because you promoted in Facebook groups. Everyone hates that. You're just going to piss people off because you broke the rules and you're going to get kicked out. Instead, go to the watering holes, go to the Facebook groups, subreddits, Discords, where all of your future listeners are currently hanging out, and don't promote. Participate. This distinction will take your social media strategy from crappy and annoying and sleazy and salesy to insanely effective, and people in your life are going to come to you asking how you've figured out social media. It's because you don't promote, you participate. In fact, you promote by participating. Go look at TikTok right now. All these brands, massive brands that are getting so much exposure on TikTok. How are they doing that? Are they posting commercials? Are they saying, check out my product, buy McDonald's? No, they're participating in the latest trend. They're simply participating in TikTok. You're going to do that, but in watering holes, in Facebook groups, subreddits, you name it. As you're participating, what you do is just, like I said, you have a meeting on your calendar. 30 minutes every day, 9 a.m., I'm going to do my TDE. 9 a.m. rolls around. You stop doing whatever else you're doing. You log into your watering holes, the Facebook groups, subreddits, and Discords where your future listeners are hanging out. You don't say, hey everyone, new podcast available with so-and-so, check it out now. Nobody cares. Everyone's going to hate you. Instead, you simply go there. You answer questions. You ask questions. You celebrate the participants' wins. You share your take, share your opinion. Participate in the community. And by the way, pro tip, if you join up and you get to know the moderators or the admins of the, we'll just say Facebook group for the rest of this video to keep it easy, but it also means Discord channel, subreddit, whatever other forum. But if you get to know the admins of the watering hole and you DM them saying, hey, I also love serving blanks who blank and blank. Let me know if you need any help moderating the community or anything like that. And by the way, just so you know, I do have a podcast. I'm totally not going to promote it in the group. I know that's against the rules. I have no interest in being self-promoting, but I just want to let you know that that I have that, but I'm really here just to participate and have fun with everybody. They're going to be like, oh, great. Thank you so much for reaching out. And now you've gotten access to all of your future listeners. And they're going to love you because you're not trying to sell them something. You're not like, listen to my show, listen to my show. You're actually providing value by participating with them and being a cool person. Social media is a party. When you're on social media, you want to be the life of the party. When you're at parties, if people meet you and they say, hi, here's my business card. Do you want to do business with me? How do you think people are going to feel? That's how they feel when you go into a Facebook group and say, check out my new podcast available now. Same thing. Just go, hang out, be curious, celebrate people's wins, answer their questions, try to be helpful. And then one by one, as you have meaningful interactions with people and you start to make friends with these listeners, you hit them in the DMs, and that's where you talk about your podcast. It sounds like it's going to take a lot of work. And yes, it is at the beginning, growing your audience one listener at a time. But I'm telling you, this is how you do it. This is how you build a thriving, growing community of raving fans on the internet. Anybody who tells you that you can go take your audience from 0 to 100,000 in a month or something like that, you can do that by going viral, but those 100,000 people aren't going to know you, love you, or trust you. They're not even going to know who you are. So they're never going to listen to your podcast, and they're definitely not going to buy from you or your sponsors. Sorry, I'm ranting. Let's get back to TDE. So the first place to do TDE in your 30-minute slot every single day is in the watering holes. Go interact and participate in those communities with your blanks who blank and blank target audience persona. At the same time, you also want to do TDE with your dream guests. So if you have an interview show, the people who it would be a dream for you to have on your podcast, this is what's going to take your cold pitches. Hey, will you be on my show? To red hot pitches. And all you do, simply all that you do, is make a list of 100 dream collaborators of your podcast. So it could be dream guests of your podcast, dream sponsors of your podcast, maybe even other creators who already have a large audience and you want to collaborate with them and get access to their audience. Put them on the list as well. This concept is called the Dream 100 and is popularized recently by Russell Brunson. Once you identify those 100 other creators, thought leaders, dream guests, whoever it may be, where it would just be an absolute dream for you to collaborate with them, what you want to do now that you have cleaned out your social media feed, instead, we want to fill your feed with the people who you want to level up to, the people you want to have on your show, the people you want to collaborate with, your Dream 100. Every single time you hop in to do TDE and you go through your feed, all you have to do is engage with those people, engage on their posts. So for instance, if my Dream 100 member for Grow the Show is Guy Raz from How I Built This, every time Guy Raz posts something, I'm going to participate in the comments of that post. It's that simple. To really take this to the next level, you can select 10 people in your Dream 100 that you really want to focus on building a relationship right now and turn on notifications for their posts in whatever app you're using to build your social media presence. In that case, every single time they post something, you'll get a notification to your phone and you can hop right in and engage with them immediately. The people who are earliest actually get to interact with that person, no matter how big they are. And by the way, the biggest myth on social media is that people who are rich and famous have someone else doing their social media. But I'm telling you right now, that is rare. It is almost always them. And social media DMs are the quickest and most direct way to reach anybody on this planet. The third group of people that you want to start engaging with on social media are the other podcasters in your niche. So these are shows that are either just below, at, or just above your level. You can use Apple Podcasts or listennotes.com to see who they are. Actually, a little hack is you can scroll to your podcast on Apple Podcasts, scroll to the bottom, and you go to where it says shows you might also like, and click on that, and boom, it'll show you like 15 other podcasts that your listeners listen to. And so now you know where to go to get more podcast listeners for your show. Just like with the Dream 100, we want to also engage with the other podcasters in our space so that down the line, we can get access to their feed. You can trade guests. So if you have a podcast and I have a podcast about podcasting, super meta, but we can trade audiences by having each other a guest on our shows or trading podcast trailers or even dropping entire episodes of each other's podcasts on our feeds. This is the most efficient way to grow your podcast right now, full stop. It is, no question, the quickest and fastest way to grow a podcast audience. And the way that you make these collaborations happen is by TDE. So I just gave you a bunch of stuff in this video. I wanted to keep this as short and as action-packed as possible. So in summary, number one, be specific with who your audience is. Number two, stop scrolling on social media and start engaging on social media. Number three, go to where your future listeners are already hanging out on social media and go participate with them. Join the party and be a part of that community. By participating rather than trying to promote yourself, you will be promoting yourself in a non-sleazy way. At the same time, you can start nurturing relationships with your dream collaborators, the dream guests for your podcast, the people who have podcasts that are way ahead of yours, who might have you on their show, dream sponsors, dream listeners, you name it. All those people are all right now on social media waiting for you to engage with them and be a cool person on social media and waiting to collaborate with you. Now, if you start doing this and your TDE is not working, it's usually one of four problems. Number one, and the most common problem, is that your listener base is not targeted enough. I cannot tell you how many audience members of mine and how many clients of mine start doing TDE and then come to me and say, this doesn't work. And I say, all right, well, who's your target audience? And they say, women. I'm like, that's not specific enough. Do you know how many women there are in the world? You have to be more specific. Women who what? You know what I mean? Blanks who blank and blank. If you skip that, it's not going to work. Number two, the second problem that I see is that your targeting is right. You do have a really good specific idea of who your listener should be, but you haven't yet found the right places to go interact with those people. One story that I see time and time again is podcasters who have a show that's about some sort of topic that's in some way, shape, or form stressful or traumatic, and they want to help people who are dealing with that. For example, I know podcasts who help caretakers of certain diseases tend to go through this. Podcasts who help with mental health in some way, shape, or form tend to get this problem, where they join giant Facebook groups of people who are looking for support with this really traumatic or stressful issue and are just looking to vent or complain, and you just burn yourself out helping people who really don't want to be helped. So again, that's something where you want to get more specific with your audience base, and or even if you already have a really specific blanks who blank and blank statement, you might want to try a different Facebook group that doesn't burn you out as much. So It's going to be trial and error. The first 30 Facebook groups that you try with this probably aren't going to be the best ones. And so every day as you sit down to do this targeted engagement, you should be constantly tweaking who you're engaging with and where you're going to engage. But once you find one group or a set of groups or one strategy within this framework that's working well, stop doing the rest and go all in on that one until it stops working. So whether it's Facebook groups or subreddits or Discords or Instagram hashtags or TikTok hashtags or LinkedIn groups or LinkedIn hashtags, or even focusing on the comments of the posts of your Dream 100, because every time your Dream 100 posts, there's a little ephemeral watering hole in the comments underneath that post of potential listeners you can engage with. Whatever these little sub-strategies work, once you find one that starts working, go all in on it. Don't worry about doing all the ones I just mentioned. Do all of them till you find one that works and then go all in on that until it stops working. The third problem that people run into is that there's just too much friction on your profiles, meaning it's confusing. It doesn't point directly to your podcast. It doesn't tell you exactly what your podcast is about and what the outcome people will get if they listen to your podcast. That's a whole nother strategy that'll have to come in another video. Comment below if you want to see that video and I'll make it. But if you can't describe your podcast in 10 words or less in a way that's super, super specific and really compelling to your dream listener, then they're not going to be compelled to listen to your show, even if you do engage with them. And then finally, the other problem that I see is that you're just not being thoughtful with your engagement. You're going after numbers. You want to say, I left 100 comments today. It's better to leave 10 really thoughtful comments than 100 emojis. So, if you're not being thoughtful and you're just going to check the box, you're not going to build relationships with other humans that way. So those are the 4 pitfalls that I have seen that you might run into. So watch out for those. And overall, just if you start trying this framework, join us in the free Grow the Show Facebook group and let us know if it's working for you or if you're running into trouble. There's literally over 1,500, I think we're up to 1,700 now, other podcasters in that group who are crushing it with TDE and can help you do the same thing. The link to that is in the description. One final warning about targeted daily engagement. This is gonna be fun. The whole reason you got into podcasting is to have an adoring audience and to serve that audience, right? Well, the thing that most podcasters experience today is that they make their content, they publish it to the void, and then no feedback at all. Instead, by starting to do 15 to 30 minutes of targeted daily engagement every day, you're going to start having really amazing interactions with the people that you love to serve. And that's going to be fun and kind of addicting. And so you actually have to set a timer so that you stop after 30 minutes. Now, you can go as long as an hour if you want, if you really have time for that. But I have also seen TDE work too well and people start to burn themselves out on social media. So if you find yourself doing 4 hours of TDE in one day, whoa there, partner, we need to back off. We instead need to do just 30 minutes every single day and let the returns build. It's just like working out. If you wanted to get fit, you wouldn't spend 8 hours in one day working out. You would work out once a day for 20 to 30 minutes for 8 weeks, and then you'd start to see results. This is the same thing. So just to wrap all of this up, I make everybody who joins the Grow the Show Podcast Accelerator do this for 90 days. No goose eggs, you must do it for 90 days straight. And oftentimes, this strategy alone starts to get them 50 to 100% audience growth month over month. Down the line, it's not completely scalable, so you will eventually add other audience growth strategies on top of this. But what this is going to do is it's going to make you really, really, really good and efficient at creating new relationships with your target audience and your dream collaborators online so that you are constantly planting new seeds and those seeds start to sprout and you start to see compound growth in your audience. But you have to start today. Just 15 minutes. Start today. You can stop this video and do it right now, and I guarantee that you're going to start to see some sort of result within a day or so. You're going to have an interaction with a dream guest that you never thought you'd get to interact with. You're going to start to see your follower count go up on that platform, and you're going to start to see your listener count go up for your podcast as well, which is the whole reason that you watched this video in the first place. And finally, yes, this is also going to make it way easier for you to monetize your podcast as well, because a growing podcast is a podcast that can be monetized, and because you're going to have such a good understanding of your audience because you interact with them every single day, that it's going to be super easy for you to identify which products and services you should either offer them or you should have sponsor your show. So there you have it, folks, podcasters, TDE, targeted daily engagement. I literally just gave you my bread and butter framework totally for free. Go out, use it, get results. And if you're even a little bit grateful, like and subscribe so I can give you more stuff for free on this channel. See you in the next video.